Hello again, Star Wars Unlimited fans. This is Mad Marty coming out to you today, and I would like to discuss my first deck, which is Captain Rex. This is the deck that I played at PQ in Bloomington, Illinois. I do have a separate video about that, but today I just wanted to talk a little bit about this deck, how I got into making it along with my friends, and how it worked for me as a player. So, to begin, Rex is a Swarm deck, and this one is a double green with Captain Rex and Data Vault. And the reason why I chose Data Vault over Droid Manufacturing Facilities is because the Data Vault is a 33-point base, and it gives you 10 additional cards. Now, some players will call that a strength, others will call that a weakness. Most originally called it a weakness. Quite frankly, I thought it was a help. On SWUDB, I called it Captain Rex Data Vault with space support. So I decided to go with Data Vault over the Droid Manufacturing because a Droid Manufacturing base is only 24 points, and that requires nearly flawless play from me. And I just found it too darn stressful. It works really neat when you put it together, but in the end, I just decided that Data Vault was better, so that's what I competed with. Now, full disclosure, I did not do very well with this deck at the PQ, but I am going to chalk that a little bit more to my personal play that day, my inexperience, and my inexperience with my opponents as well. More on that another day, but I want to say that with all the tweaks and the final version that I'm currently using now, I have played this deck over 300 times on Carabast. I've played this deck against live people at the local shops at Cataclysm. Shout out to them. Played this with the other Salty Smugglers, my buddies. So my friends are very familiar with this, but I consider this to be a very good starter deck. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through real quickly the individual cards that are in it and describe why it's in there and what I think is good about each card. So to begin, this is going to sound a little cheap, but I did do a 332nd Stalwart, which I only have one of those in there. The reason why I had it in there is because it's a body, and if you have 3 more units, you get +1/+1, so it's actually a 2/3 when things are running properly at 1 cost. It was just something I needed to fill a slot, but more on that a little bit later. The second card I have in there is 1 cost R2-D2. The reason why I have this one in here is because it allows me to cycle through the deck faster to get to the cards that I want. So anytime he attacks or you play him, you get to look at the top card and decide if you want it at the top or if you want to move down to the bottom. So it's a very useful little unit. Next card I have is 3 of them in the deck, which is Battlefield Marine. Side note, R2 is also 3 in the deck as well. I'm going to actually just say all of them are 3 in the deck unless otherwise stated, but the Battlefield Marine is a 2 cost at 3/3. Can't get much better value than that early in the game, so it's a good little unit, and anybody that tries to take him out early game was usually sacrificing something significant of theirs. So, good starter unit. The next card I have in there is the 2-point Coruscant Guard. When I made the switch over from the 24-point base to the 33-point base, this is one of the cards that I added. And actually I like this one because it does have a good ambush mechanic if you have 3 or more units. So it's a 3/2, so this guy is purely offense. It's good to score a couple quick pieces of damage on the enemy. Good to take out units, but it also works really well in conjunction with another unit. Next I have a single Echo unit in there. Once again, I just needed to fill a card slot, and I wanted a little bit more variety. The coordinate on there is +2/+2, so when working properly, he's a 4/4. So good little medium muscle in the deck. Next I have Mas Amedda. He's a double green, so he's a 2.04. The reason why I have him in there is because gets me units faster. Anytime I play something, I exhaust him, and we cycle down. We pick a unit that we want in our hand. So it does have a nice little mechanic that keeps the units high, so that kind of helps with things. The only downer to Masamata is you could wind up cycling through too fast, and that could be a legitimate problem. But overall, the benefit outweighs the cost if played early. Later game, though, mid to late game, he's more of a resource because honestly, having 0-4, there's no penalty to attack him, so there is some downside to him mid to late game. So you want to play him like in the first or second round, otherwise cycle him down to the bottom, in my opinion. Next up, we have Republic Tactical Officer. Now, this was one of the recommended cards with the Rex Swarm deck early on from the 24-point version. It wasn't until a little bit later on, as I got deeper into experience with the card, it does have very good use. So again, it's a 2-point unit. When played, you may attack with a Republic unit, gets +2/+0 for this attack. Works real well in conjunction with Coruscant Guard. I play this guy. Give Coruscant Guard a good little 2-point boost. Next thing you do, you're doing nice slices of 5-point damage. So it's a very good card to have in the deck. Again, it's another body, but again, we'll get to the body part. 501st Liberator. This is the first 3-point deck that I have in the deck. Card that I have in the deck. So when I play him, he's a 3/3, and you get to heal 3 points to the base. On top of the beefy 33-point data vault as it is, especially when you're going up against Tarkin Towns, it could be a good little boost. But the attack power does make it a nice little addition on there. However, I will resource him early in the game. Admiral Ackbar. This is one that I added personally as I went to the data vault build. Not only does he have a Restore 1, but this guy, when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of units you control in its arena. Rex is designed to be a wide deck. So if you have a good 4 or 5 units already on the board, you play this guy, then that's 5 or 6 damage to the opposing unit. So this is actually a leader killer, so it's a good way to get rid of a beefy unit on one side of the board in one fell swoop. So he's a good little emergency release valve, one that I am definitely a fan of. So very glad to have this guy in my deck. Next up we have Admiral Yularen. He's a 2/5, so there is some value in terms of soaking damage there, but he also gives friendly heroic units +1 health. Honestly, I don't play this guy often as much as I should, I don't think. I'm still trying to find a way to get him into the rhythm more quickly. Being at 3 points, he's a little bit harder to deploy en masse with some of the others. But having that 1-point health in there for heroic units is of considerable use. Next up, we have our first Sentinel, which is Echo-Based Defender. And that is a 4/3 Sentinel. And of the 2 Sentinels that I play in the ground, this one's probably my more favorite. The 4/3 Sentinel takes more pain to get rid of him. Yeah, sure, he dies easier, but that pain could usually take out most low level to medium point units. So it is one that I use a moderate amount of the time. Homestead Militia. This one I usually play a little bit later in the game. It's a 3/4 unit at 3 costs, but it doesn't turn into a Sentinel until the 6th resource turn. And in Rex World, that is late game, and I'll explain that in a minute. If I'm having to resort to Homestead Militias, chances are things are not going too well for me, but it is something I might use in an emergency stall tactic. Of the 2 Sentinels, Echo-Based Defender's the 4/3, this one's a 3/4. I'd rather have the kill power, so I tend to go with Echo-Based Defender more often, but I wanted a little bit more Sentinel power potentially in the deck, so that's why he's there. Shaak Ti. This one's a fun card because it's a fun card, but it's not one I actually play all that often. Each token unit that gets generated gets +1/+0, so beefs up your tokens a little bit. And every time she swings, she makes another Rex baby. problem with this one is when you play it, this one gets keyed off on pretty heavily. So, I don't know. I like having her in the deck, but she winds up getting a resource more often than when I'm trying to build my field. But again, we'll get to that as far as where that falls in the overall play. Next, in the final ground unit, we have Commander Cody. He's a 5 cost with a 4/4 with a little bit of overwhelm and then the coordinate. Each other friendly unit gets +1/+1 when you control 3 or more units. Normally, this does not go into my speed cycle. This happens to be more of a late play if something's going wrong. Great buff to the units, but you'll see why this is not a common play for me. But great one to have. Now, I'm going to get into space units really quick, and initially this deck only had 6 space units in the entire deck. Led to some problems, especially with yellow decks that use space units. Obviously, the Vaders and the Lukes gives a little bit of a challenge to the deck as a whole. But as far as space units, the first one we have is Blue Leader. It's a great ambush card at 3/3/3, and if you pay the 2 additional resources, it goes to the ground with a 5/5 ambush. So you can either pay 3 for a space ambush, or you can pay 5 for a ground ambush. But it's a good emergency killer if you need it. Overall, probably the most useful space unit in the entire deck. Next up, we have Eager Escort Fighter. This was a late addition, kind of a controversial one. I'm still kind of wrestling with this. It's a 4/1, so if it goes up against anything that can attack back or has a red rating back, this sucker's going to die. However, being a 4/1 and an ambush, this is my Millennium Falcon killer. Those guys that like to drop those 3-point Millennium Falcons, this is my answer to that. Also, when it comes to TIE Bombers, this is a great killer of the TIE Bomber. The TIE Bomber doesn't have any initial offensive capability, so this one here you can throw out there and get a good easy kill. Great one to have for that purpose. Next up, we have Bright Hope. This is also another one of the traditional cards in the Rex builds. This is a Sentinel in space, so this is a good stall tactic for some of the space opponents that you may deal with. But also, when you play it, you can return a non-leader ground unit to the hand, and if you do, draw a card, so it builds up your hand a little bit. So it's a little bit of an engine capability there, but again, being a 6-point defensive, 6 hit point Sentinel, this does help with stalling in space. Then finally, for space units, we got the Marauder. This one is an ambush at 5 cost, but it's 4/5 ambush. But it has a nice little factor in there. Choose a card and discard pile, put it into play as a resource if you have another one of them on the board. So if I happen to have that Republic Tactical Officer, and I have one in my discard and the board, that discard becomes a resource. I don't get to run into that very often. I only run one of these in the entire deck because I have other priorities. But again, we'll talk a little bit about why that is. So we are getting to that element, guys. So for upgrades, I only carry one in there, and I only carry one upgrade card in the entire deck. Inspiring Mentor. So I attach that to a non-vehicle unit. So the attached unit gets on attack, and also when defeated, they give an experience token to another friendly unit. Unless you're burying this guy behind a Sentinel, unless you attach it to a unit that's already under a Sentinel, this will usually wind up putting a bullseye on the target's back. But every time this unit swings, once it's attached, you'll start generating experience points and beefing up your units. So, getting to the event cards, I carry 12 event cards on there, 4 different types. The first one is Synchronized Strike. Deal damage to an enemy unit equal to the number of units you control in its arena. So similar to Admiral Akbar, it's a poor man's version of that. So for 2 points, for 2 resource, if you have 5 units on the board, that's 5 damage to a particular unit. Once again, it's a little bit of a leader killer. So happy to play with that, but it does get resource more frequently than I would guess. Next up we have manufactured soldiers. This one's pretty important to me. So when you play it at 3 cost, it's you either generate 2 clone trooper tokens, so we either make 2 clone babies, or we do 3 battle droid tokens. Most of the time in my standard play, I'll actually do the latter. I'll kind of go through the cycle on how this comes into play, but I almost always look for this on my initial draw. If I don't have this one or one other card, I might consider a mulligan, but that's another story in itself. Next up, we have timely reinforcements. So 5 costs, but when you play this, however many resource your opponent has generates that many X-Wing tokens at which are 2/2, and they're Sentinels. So this card is designed in an emergency pinch, like let's say I'm going against a heavy Boba or a Luke Skywalker or a Vader. This is like an instant shield on the battlefield. It also serves one other nice little purpose, which we'll get to in a sec, but it's a good emergency safety valve if things aren't going your way by turn 6. But finally, we have the bomb card, which is called Unity of Purpose. So this is a double green card, like manufactured soldiers, but when you play this, for each friendly unit with a different name, you give each unit you control +1/+1 for this phase. So the goal is to get as many different named units on the board. If you have 4, it's +4/+4 to everybody. If you have 5, it's +5/+5. I've had as high as 7. So if I have 7 different named units on the board at the time that I play this, everything gets their 7/7 or 6/6 or whatever it is for the duration of that round. And unless the opponent has something amazing planned, it's really tough to beat Rex at that stage in the game. So that it's a great card. It's an amazing card, but your chances of winning without it are go down dramatically. So, and in a 60 card deck, I just want to point out that card is a mere 5% of cards in the total deck. So, but despite this, I've still managed to win about 50% of the time with this deck on Karabast. But we'll talk a little bit about the strategy really quick of the Rex deck. So, in the beginning, I normally try to play that a beefier 2-point cost unit right out of the gate. Sometimes I'll play R2 early. But ideally, Battlefield Marine is a great first round play for me. Second round, I try to do a little bit of minor damage, and every round I try to maximize the number of units I can play on the board. So, resource round, the first round, resource round 2, I play the 1 unit. Next round, at resource round 3, ideally I want to do a 2-pointer and a 1-pointer to get 3 units on board. Same thing with round 4, try to get at least 2 units on board. And then round 5 is where it gets kind of tricky. So the ideal plan around 5 is I'll play another 2-point unit, and then I'll play that manufactured soldiers, and I'll throw down the 3 battle droid tokens, because when I deploy Rex himself, he'll become live along with an additional trooper token, and this deck is loaded with trooper tokens because once Rex deploys, it's a +1. So ideally, if I have when I get to that round and at resource round 5. Hopefully by then I have 3 or 4 units already on the board, and then if I play the battle droid tokens with manufactured soldiers, that puts 3 more units on the board with one unique name. You flip over Rex, he produces a clone trooper baby and himself. So I have a very strong chance to have 5 or 6 named units at the beginning of turn 6. If I have Unity of Purpose, bam, that is the play. The original plan with the 24-point base is it generated 2 droid tokens by the time Rex gets flipped for turn 6. The problem is 24-point base, that's worse than Darken Down. It's just, you have to play flawless every single time. And on top of that, if you don't get Unity of Purpose, you're hosed. Now, for the Rex deck in particular, the pros of the deck, I think it's relatively easy to play, relatively easy to pick up on. It's a good starter deck, and you can surprise people with it from time to time. If people are not familiar with the Rex plays, like at all, you can beat out most inexperienced players with this deck. The problem with Rex and common criticism of him is that he tends to be a one-trick pony, and I cannot disagree with that. However, that being said, of my 300 battles, of my 168 wins, I've gotten 21 wins without Unity of Purpose. I know that's not necessarily a huge number, but it is still notable that you can win without it. It's just a lot harder. So some of the tougher things about Rex in general is he struggles against villainy controlled decks, villainy blue element decks, particularly Kira. I have a very hard time against Kira, and I also did really poorly against a Bossk blue. The problem is if you get to round 8 or so, or some of those high-level resource rounds, once they start playing board-clearing cards, Rex can have a real bad day, and it's really hard to recover from it. If you get a Snoke thrown at you, that knocks down the units themselves. There's a lot of them, but it lowers their attack power to practically nothing. So you have to finish the job, ideally on resource turn 6, otherwise you're going to have a very bad day. I also tend to struggle a lot against Han Solo decks for some reason, of all shapes and sizes. But some of the plus sides about this, I've played Boba Fett, the red Boba Fett, roughly 40 times with this Rex deck. And I have that deck's number. My win percentage on that is actually pretty darn strong. I want to say it's like upper 60s, maybe mid 70%. I don't have the stats immediately in front of me. But I also like to say that Rex performs really well against non-traditional decks as a whole. But I still tend to struggle a little bit against Quinlan Vos, as well as, once again, the Kiras. And Cad Bane, for some reason, Cad Bane has my number, or maybe it's just the fact that AJ, the Salty Smugglers, he helped me build the deck, and I just struggle with it. But once again, I think I overperformed with this deck at the PQ. I think I could have done better than 1 and 6. I think I could have done maybe 2 more wins during the course of the competition if I would have been paying attention. But I like the deck. I'm glad I have it. But it may not be as competitive as some people would like. Maybe I'm the problem. But I'm always going to keep this deck assembled, but I might move on to something else now that the new set is out this week, or last week rather, it came out, Legends of the Force. But more on that later. But if you have any kind of suggestions or experiences with Rex, or any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see what we can do in terms of discussion. But I do appreciate the attention on this one, and I'm just happy to share. In any case, this is Bad Marty reminding you to do what's responsible, avoid what's irresponsible, make the most of what you got, and get respect. Mad respect. See you next time.